Well, here are the boxes I received from Dennis DeBoers. The left one is the Reliant, and the right one is the Enterprise. Zoom in here and open these guys up. I have removed all the packaging. So it's a great big box full of padding. That's what's in that guy. And open up the Reliant. That's what's in the big Reliant box. Well, we're going to go ahead and take all the parts out and go over them individually. So here's the Enterprise. That's the top half of the saucer. The bottom half of the saucer. My little paint booth and drill table. The warp nacelles. The secondary hull. There we go. Pylons. Warp nacelle. Parts, components. Planetary array, the bridge, the deflector dish housing, the deflector dish, the impulse crystal housing. It's a completely clear part, which is pretty amazing. This camera, I should buy a better camera, but the resin, there are a couple bubbles in there, but they're not in areas that are going to show through the lighting. They'll be painted over. Let's see if I can get a bubble. You do not believe how hard it is to get optically clear resin to look this good. It's fantastic. The deflector dish looks fantastic. Here are the warp nacelle. I forgot the name of this part, but you know, there's blue LEDs behind it. I've been talking a lot to Matt over at Laserfire Creations, and we're talking about maybe making a concave version of this. Right now it's flat, and in the model itself they were concave. Not sure if we can be able to do it, but it's a possibility. Comes with an instruction book. And this has been reviewed with decal sheet. There's the, if you want to use decals, you can do decals of the Arboretum, but we're going to scratch build that. Actually, we'll probably end up printing it. Designing it in CAD and having it printed out. It's a combination of scratch build printed parts. I'm not that good of a scratch builder. And a very large instruction sheet. And let me get my tape measure and we will start measuring some stuff out to give you an idea of one of my biggest concerns when I bought this kit, well, both these kits, was how to wire it. I've seen a lot of guys who have wired this kit, like Simon Works. I've seen a lot of them done, but no one ever goes into details about spacing, how do you run wires, etc. And I asked Dennis a couple of those questions. I wish I'd gotten some better answers, but you know, I got the answers I got. But I want to show you some more detail on the wiring. So if you look at the nacelle, here's a match pair. Tons of room inside the nacelle to go in and add whatever special effects you want to add. Plenty of room up front for the lights that hit. I'm not going to be able to get it. Well, there's detailing that shows you where the spotlights go that spot the secondary hull and the saucer section coming off the nacelle. There's one there and another section there that shows you where that is. You're going to have to cut out the top hole here for the crystal. You're obviously going to have to cut this whole section out for the panel. It goes in there. A guy who did a really good video on how to get everything to fit, he doesn't talk. Orbital Dry Dock has published a couple videos that shows you how to put this together. There's some fitment issues here, but of course you're going to have to go in and fix it. Sand it down, make sure these pieces are flat. It looks like when he casts it, he just poured the resin into the mold, so this is not perfectly flat on the underneath. You have to go in and clean that up. And it's a little too high, but it'll sit right there. The good thing is you could magnetize, you could put this on at the end. You could paint this entire part, including the copper in here, and magnetize it. Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. That would look really good if you got it to fit right. So there's that. Here is the outside, the warp nacelle. And this guy, this holds one of the RCS thrusters. Should go on the back here somewhere. Hold on a second. Holding a camera and talking at the same time is incredibly difficult. I've never tried it before and I'm failing. So this way, or is it this way? That fits pretty well. I mean, I cannot tell you how amazingly good this kit is that comes out of his garage. Lots of detail on this part. It'll need some, a lot of detail on this part. It'll need some cleanup. And you have to go in and drill out. You have to drill out a lot of stuff to get all this drilled out and lit by an LED in there. Here's my beautiful daughter, Aki. Say hi, Aki. She's my production assistant. She's keeping the other neighborhood kids out while we film this. Considering this is the model room and toy room. It's the dollhouse and the toys. And the desk. These parts are amazing. They fit amazingly well. Looking forward to getting this guy put together. And part of what I'm doing here... Put the camera down. I haven't seen people measure. So the warp engine is a little over 22 by 22 and a half inches when done. So, okay. Here's the pylon. The detailing in here is pretty good. I know that Elliot Brown made a photo etch set for Simon Merckx for this model. And I've been inquiring because I want to give him some money and get the photo etch set. If you look, it would be very painful to go in here and clean up some of the resin left over from casting and leave the detail in. But if you did it with photo etch, it could be perfectly crisp and clear. It'd be fantastic. He's got panel lines. You can kind of see them. He's got panel lines in here for the... I like the green. Some people say blues, but I think they're green. And there is a bolt on the bottom. This bolts into the secondary hull. And he's got a wiring channel, which is a square tube, brass tube. And let me measure that. So the square tube is 3/8 inch on the interior diameter, so it's a little bit bigger on the outside. But that way you could budget your wiring. So I know I'm going to have, you got a nav light, you've got RCS, you've got you got the grill there, you got the spotlights, you got the impulse crystal up top. I'm missing something. I'm not sure how I'm going to do the spots on the back, if I'm going to do the spots back here, but that's a possibility as another wire. But I think I can get, probably 10, 12 wires in there, depends on the diameter of the vinyl. If I have to, I can get different gauge wire with different vinyl. I saw Boyd, he was showing some wire wrap, which actually is very small outer diameter vinyl covering. I like vinyl over magnet wire. I heat shrink and solder every joint, and I've never had a problem. Nothing ever comes apart. Now, there's no internal shorts, no nothing. So they're the two pylons. You won't see this once it's painted and primed. There's going to be some filling to do. Not much, though. I do a lot of resin casting. Everything I do is pressure cast. That was right on cue. So these are amazingly well cast pieces. Some more thought required on how to get the nacelles pinned into this. So it's going to require pinning, probably epoxy. I might go in here and drill some alignment pins, maybe one at the front and one at the back. Put the pins, so I'll have a tube here with a pin on the nacelle. Everything's epoxied up, and then it'll slide into place perfectly, and then put the last bit of epoxy. That'll give it some more strength, I think. But that's a ways away. So here are the here's the planetary sensor. You know, lots of detail in the dome. Lots of detail in the dome. It's not going to focus. You can screw in. I'll go in there with my drill press with this compound table. Go in there and clean those holes out and get them all nice and perfect for the LED lights from the inside to come flashing out. That's going to be perfect for the spotlight effects on the bottom of the saucer. The bubble on the inside, so it's irrelevant. Looks good. Not sure where this little doodad goes. Photon torpedoes. I have to go in there and clean that out. Not sure what I want to do with lensing material. I might just clear cast the covers on the torpedoes there. But I'm thinking I'm going to end up using 2 red LEDs and 1 white LED on each side. That way when it flashes white, when the torpedo fires, quote-unquote fires, it'll have red around it. One thing I didn't like on my 1/350th is I only used 1 of each. And I don't think I get as good a blending of light. I also will probably go to smaller LEDs, maybe 1.8 millimeter, sand down the sides and sandwich them together better. We'll see, that's going to require some testing to get the effect I want. The bridge, nice detail, shuttle port looks good. Good port, overall good port. I am 99% sure this will be magnetized to that. So you can pull it off and have access to the wiring underneath. And also, when I paint this, I can get everything really super crisp and clean. And then just plop it down and we're done. 3 or 4 rare earth magnets, this thing's not coming off unless you want it to. Okay. This is an amazing part. Showed you a little bit earlier. Back of the saucer right there. I have to cut these parts out. Probably I do a lot of casting. I might end up taking a mold of this back here so I can cast inserts in a clear optical resin back here. And I need to, hopefully Elliot Brown, I'll get a hold of him and I can find out that there's photo etch for this. If there is, that would make this back part look fantastic. And clean that up. Deflector housing, some rough mold right there, but you know what? You cut that out, so it doesn't matter. You got RCS thrusters in there. You've got some panel lines for some of the different greens in there. I like green, and we'll have to hole out the holes for the RCS thrusters. And take this part out. I'm 99% sure the Elliot Brown photo etch set also has the ring around here. Hopefully we'll take a look at that. We can get a copy of one. And make it super nice and really clean this up instead of me having to go in and get all these perfectly milled out. Especially this is such a complex surface and thick. I mean, this is probably ½ inch thick, maybe 3/8. So it's going to be tough to mill all that out in there. Deflector dish, nice big thick part. Look forward to building the LED effect for the back for this guy. It's going to be an RGB LED. I might use 2, maybe 3. Depends on how much light I can get into it. One RGB LED worked really well for the 1/350th. This is a wee bit bigger. I'm not sure how many I'm going to need. Here are the panel inserts for the warp nacelles. In the studio model, they're concave. Here they're flat. I mean, without any effort at all, they're pretty close to fitting perfectly in there. So, and at first I thought these may have been acrylic, but they're actually cast because the back's not perfect. And he thoughtfully ships them with a little backing piece of wood so no one breaks them. Here is the shuttle doors. I've been working with a mechanical engineer. I'm an electrical. We're seeing if we can't figure out a way to make a system where we can have doors open and close. As you can see, this is pretty small. My hand's not that big. So I don't know if we're going to be able to do it or not. Maybe photo etch doors and some servo. I don't know. We got a couple ideas. Hell, we work on robots for a living. Why not? Secondary hull. This guy. So it's about 15 inches or so without the deflector dish housing on the front. You had some distances for that. There you go. The housing fits quite well. It'll take some work to get those photon torpedo housing to get in there very well. But that's okay. So this is the inside. You got brass tube that brings wire down from the saucer, which I think is going to be too small. You've got you can see the metal where the pylons bolt into. Lots of strength there. And lots of extra fiberglass in the bottom. And this is where I'm going to probably mount it, but that's not nearly large enough for the number of wires I'm going to have to run through this. It's probably going to be a 1-inch diameter copper pipe. Probably what I end up using. I had used a 3/4 inch PVC pipe on my 1/350th. I barely got all the wiring through there, and I'm going to add more wiring on this model because I want to be able to do and control more items individually. Since I'm not using anyone's off-the-shelf electronics, I'm going to use a Mega Arduino, and I have 30 control lines. Actually, I've got like 45, which I could use to run all the different lights in this model. Okay. And if you look at the top, there are 2 screws, and it's hollow going up there, so you can get. So I have to drill a hole probably here. Maybe not that. It looks like it's a keying hole. Maybe up here to pull the wires from the saucer section down. But the saucer bolts in here. And this is very strong. So here's the top saucer. It is a little over 20.5 inches in diameter. You can see all the reinforcing, all the extra fiberglass. I've seen other people go back in and add more. Not sure if I'm going to do that. This is it's a little bit floppy, but it's strong. The bridge fits up there, and unlike the one big deal people have with the 350th is where's the bridge sit, so we can place it wherever we want to get the right side view of that. And this guy fits back here. He fits flush. But again, the nice thing about this being a separate piece is I can get this perfectly matted, everything finished, put maybe 4 or 5 rare earth magnets in here, and have it just snap down. will just snap down so I can paint this off model, have all my lines crisp, paint the saucer without, you know, these sections on there. So it may not sound like a big deal, but that is a total ton of masking you no longer have to worry about. Another issue is there's no officer's lounge window. I have to add that and scratch build some sort of officer's lounge in there. Simon Merckx had one. I don't know I don't know if Dennis sent it to him or not, but I don't see it in my kit. So, such is life. All right, let's look at the bottom saucer section. Here's the bottom saucer section. Very rigid. Lots of room in here. Lots of room. You can see where the bolts, the screws screw in. You can see the keying back here. You got keying here, keying there to match up to the secondary hull. I can hopefully just put that there. So I break everything I just spent all the money on. But it goes right there. And it will bolt in. So, probably for construction, I will have the wiring harness come out of here, and I will use 10th inch connectors. So I can completely do all the wiring and just have a bunch of connectors poking up. And then I can have the saucer literally completely done, the bottom half. Come in here and I have to think about that. I have also seen people add more reinforcement to here. Again, Orbital Dry Dock had some good videos on that. Simon Merckx has done some laser work. I totally want to add lasers. He had two coming through here at the front. So I'm going to do some investigation on lasers. Not sure what I'm going to get yet. And I really want to do 12. I want 6 on the bottom and 6 on top. I don't know if I'm able to do that. Who knows? That's about 6 different control wires also. So I need to run a spreadsheet to see how much I can control in the model. What makes sense. And other parts that go on the bottom. You've got, and here's the planetary sensor. It's right there. Totally intend for this guy to be magneted down also. So I will probably, in order to facilitate that, all the spots will have to be pre-positioned and glued down, secured here, and this will just cover the whole thing. So that'll take some more work on the modeling side, but it'll make it much easier for me to paint this model. Because this guy, I can get in there, if I can just paint this off model, I can do all the intricate panel lining on this piece and make it look fantastic without having to worry to mask this off, and all my lines will be super crisp. That looks exciting. So, there's that. And maybe, I don't know if there were photo etch parts or not that go in here. If not, maybe I will research how to do PE and make some PE parts. We'll see. Oh, there's the bubble. Easily filled. One last thing I didn't talk about. I ordered the shuttle bay for the Enterprise, and I got a great idea from Simon Merckx. Thank you, Simon. Where you get this cast and clear, so the sidewalls are clear, which makes it easier to bring light in from the sides. There's the bottom, the back. I don't think I can get it mashed together, but hold on a second. These guys line up. So you got the shuttle bay right there, and because it's clear, I can bring light in. This is the top. God, I don't know how you guys do this camera nonsense. The top, doing everything one-handed is horrible. You get the lights coming down. This probably fits in this way. So, there's the shuttle bay. It's an add-on for the Enterprise. But I think it was well worth it. Cheaper than what it would cost me to, in time and dollars, to do the same thing. Another method is scratching it or printing it. So the Enterprise is $1,200 on Dennis's website, and the Reliant's $1,800. And I'm like, what's the difference? Why is it so much more money? It's 50% more. But so there's the Enterprise saucer, and bam! There are the Reliant top and bottom. And let me zoom it out. And you can see all the Reliant parts on the left, and then a couple Enterprise parts on the right. The nacelles are exactly the same length. There's a slight difference in how they mount. You can see that the Enterprise has those bottom notches, and those are missing on the Reliance nacelles. So let's get some in-depth look at these parts. So everything I did on this model, I wanted to make sure I could control. We'll start with the nacelles. They're gonna look the same as the Enterprises. The Reliants are the same. They've got the same exact RCS thruster housing. They'll have the same issues as the Enterprises. So I'll have to go in, mill that out to make room for the LEDs that need to go in there and light for the thrusters. Same type of fiberglass reinforcement on the back with the flat inserts for panels. So they'll both take a little bit of work to make them fit perfectly, but that's not a problem. The biggest thing though is to make sure, maybe I want to screw this up, I'm not sure. I'll have to do some work on that thought. So nothing terribly exciting about the nacelles, but how they mount is pretty cool. So I care a lot about wiring. I like having lots and lots of cabling to control everything on these models. So this is this holds the roll bar and the pylon. Let me unwrap it a little bit. So going into the roll bar, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think 8 wires times 2, so that's 16. Only one has to be ground. I might have 2 grounds, not sure. So that's 16 wires up into the roll bar. I'll tell you why that's important here in a second. And then down into the warp engine, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 up and 8 down. So for the nacelle, that gives you 7 control wires and a ground. So that'd be, one would be, nav light, impulse crystal, RCS thruster, maybe 2 spotlights, that's 5. We only get 2 more. And then the LEDs for the lighting effect for the warp engine. So maybe that's 6. What else do we have in here? And maybe 1 more additional spot, I'm not sure. So, and then up into the roll bar, we'll take a look at the roll bar now. Here's the roll bar itself. It's going to sit. I gotta light my shoes. It'll sit right there on the roll bar like that. Oh no, I only got 8 wires into the roll bar. Shoot. That's going to be a problem. We're going to have to fix that. The only way I know how to fix that is we're going to have to trench a line out here and then fill it back in. Okay, not a problem, we can do that. So I can tell you why 8 wires is not enough for the roll bar. So there's the roll bar, lots of fantastic detailing. Here is the enclosure for the torpedoes. And let me show you. Here's the enclosure for the torpedoes. You can see the pylon actually screws into the hull to give it a lot more strength, and we'll look at the hull here in a second. I'm going to have to, I know for a fact, like I'm doing on the Enterprise, I'm going to pin, I'll put some pins into here, some tubing into the warp nacelle so it all lines up, alignment pins, epoxy everything, and then slide them together and epoxy it again to give that joint a lot of strength. I'm afraid my kids might run into it and break it. That'd be horrible, but a lot of strength. I mean, this is just a big chunk of plastic. This is very strong. Looks like this part has to be cut out, and then this piece will recess into here. Time to get the instructions out and look at the model and the movie. Make sure I get that put together properly. But these pieces are fantastic. Okay, the rest of these parts go onto the hull. These were to be secured magnetically to allow access to the hull, which I think is a brilliant idea. I don't intend to have, there will be no electronics in the hull itself. They'll all be in the base. And as much as I can, I'll have redundant LEDs in most of the lighting sections. You can't do that for the nav lights. So I'm not quite sure if I want to be able to make those accessible. Not sure how to do that just yet. But this, what these four parts are, they're panels that glue into or magnetize down into parts of that hull. Impulse engine, and I'll show these to you. I'll put them where they go in the hull. Impulse engine housing. Detail's pretty good. This will all have to be cut out. And I probably, like I do for the Enterprise, I'll have to cast something up and do some optical clear resin like this. And hopefully I can get the photo etch set from Elliot Brown at Fedoratron. I've contacted him. He said it should be ready at some point, but he's a hard guy to get a hold of because he doesn't know who I am. If my name were Simon Burks or Boyd, he might call me back, but it's hard to get a hold of him. So the PE set would be fantastic to have those in here. And it takes some work to get the LEDs, get the red effect in there, but I think it'd be worth it. Another big chunk of resin that goes on the bottom of the hull. Oh, I'm sorry, the top. And these are for the warp engines, which I didn't see for the Enterprise. Maybe they're in the box. These are the shuttle bay doors. Again, they're fantastic parts. I'm going to scratch build shuttle bays behind them though. So I'm going to build 2 shuttle bays behind them. It'll be probably part scratch build and part printed parts from Shapeways. Planetary sensor looks an awful lot like the one from the Enterprise. I think it's the exact same part. And the bridge looks an awful lot like the one from the Enterprise. So I think they're the exact same part. And we have our 2 clear inserts, one for the warp engines. Although I think it had a different name in the movie. I mean, impulse engine. Top and bottom. God, the camera's killing me. So, there's that. And let's get a closer look at the hull. Oh! And a super nice instruction set and sticker set. Decals or decals. So here is the bottom of the hull. Let's get some measurements for you. So it's about 25 inches or so. And $20.5-ish on the width. So when you add the warp nacelles on the bottom, it's close to 3 feet from what I've read. So these guys go in here, I think. Like that. And I think these guys go in here like this, something like that. So there's those 4 parts, and then this impulse engine goes there, the housing, and these will mount on the inside. I got it upside down. Oh no, I had it right side up. Those will mount on the inside. And I think this goes here. One of them goes there. So this is the bottom hole. Let's flip it over. Lots of fiberglass, very strong. Not looking forward to having to cut that out. That comes with a little extra stiffening wire here between the two pieces. Tons of room in this model to do the shuttle bays on the back, all the interior lighting, and more lasers. I know there's a lot more room in this model than there is on the Enterprise, so if power budget permitting, I don't see why I couldn't get a dozen lasers in here. If not 14. So that's the bottom hole. And here is the top hole. Gorgeous model. There is some loss of detail. Not much. And for how big the piece is, it looks pretty darn good. So I'll have to go in and do some cleanup. And you can tell I do a lot of casting, but you can see that this mold is nearing the end of its usefulness. When you start picking out mold bits, silicone, that means he's probably only got another couple casts left on this mold. So hopefully he gets enough orders and he'll make another one. Otherwise, this kit's done, which would make me very sad. It's a fantastic kit. But this ginormous chunk of resin goes in back. And I think that sits on top, or that sits on top. One of the two. And the bridge sits up here. God, it's a big model. Alright. Well, thanks. Hopefully I can edit a lot of my jerkiness out of this. I'll actually only do one more thing. That looks pretty darn cool. And one thing you have to realize is you're going to have to go in and drill all these windows out. And I've been looking at that and trying to come up with a way to do it where they're incredibly accurate and even and level throughout all of them. So I don't know. It'll take some work. But that's not for today to do. And there's windows here along this part, and there's windows all along in here. So, well, thank you for watching. Hopefully you got something out of it. Lots of room in these models to run a lot of electronics. I am looking forward to getting this done. But I got 2 models to finish ahead of it. All right, have a good day.